Police and border officials say they've broken up a human smuggling ring in Ontario. Officials say 85 people have been designated as irregular arrivals after they traveled from Mexico through the United States, entering into Canada illegally. 45 people are being sought by the authorities, and here to discuss this is Shay Invidiata, founder of Free Them, an organization that fights human trafficking.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Likewise.
You know, can we just ask, because they're being detained under this new irregular arrival law, do you have concerns specifically, A, that they're being detained, that these could be victims, and yet, you know, they're not even allowed to apply for Canadian residency for 5 years under this new law, much less go home or anything? They could be victims. We don't know.
Yeah, it's that's one of the main sensitivities around this issue right now that's come up. And since this is the first time that this policy is actually now being implemented since it was put into effect, we're going to be seeing, I think, some movement within the government and maybe changing their mind on certain things as new information comes forward. And definitely right now, you know, the main concern is these people that are here, if they're victims, to not be treating them as criminals. And making sure that they get the proper, adequate care and response that they should be receiving if, in fact, they are victims.
And how do we do that? How do we differentiate between people looking for work and people being brought here essentially against their will?
Yeah, I mean, even that, this is a massive case. There's about over 80 people involved. So I think what's going to happen is that they're going to have to really break it down piece by piece and look at, like, there's a lot of minors that are involved here and seeing, you know, what's really fair, that they should be receiving work, or if they're going to be receiving, how they're going to get food, and that always becomes the concern for it. When you look at where it first started and the promise that was given to them through these smugglers, the intention of the government is to make sure that all illegal activity is not coming through our borders. And I think that that is one of the main concerns, and I'm proud to say that with the government that they are responding to that, because we need to make sure that people coming across our borders are coming across legally, even if they are trying to come across in desperation, and we understand that, and that's why we love Canada, because we welcome immigrants into our country. So they're going to be having to analyze both of those scenarios to see what really took place from the beginning.
In your experience, and with all the work your group does, I mean, certainly you guys focus on sexual slavery, but we know there is very often that component to any kind of criminal activity involving this kind of thing.
Absolutely. I mean, even wherever there's, even if it's forced labor, and, you know, earlier this year we did see that case with the Hungarians, more in the Niagara region, Hamilton area, and wherever there's females that are involved, whether it is for forced labor or domestic work, that sexual exploitation usually does cross over. And obviously children are more vulnerable to receiving both. So that is something of concern that would also need to be taken into consideration.
Now, what makes this difficult for authorities often enough that these are the people doing the smuggling are all national groups. They come from, for example, Romania, and they smuggle Romanians. So it's a little difficult to break into that ring. Do you think it's important that we get people on side from these other countries, the countries of origin?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the minister was talking about how, you know, that allowing the victims to know, if they knew priorhand, that, you know, they would think twice about maybe giving this, you know, $10,000, $20,000 to come here. And when I was listening to the minister saying that yesterday on Parliament Hill, it begged the question, but are they really aware that upon arrival in Canada that they may be detained? Because that communication needs to be expressed to these people prior to coming here.
That's part of the risk you take if you're willing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, great to see you again. Good luck in your work.
Thank you. Thank you so much.